It's the 17th of this month. It is the month of April. A very good afternoon to you. It's 2 p.m. Central African time. Welcome to this edition of Market View. Coming up on the show, the global economy holding its breath, uncertainties in the markets, oil prices flirting with volatility, central banks still walking a tightrope between inflation and growth. And right here at home, the Kingdom of Eswatini, businesses are now being squeezed by rising input costs, some of the fluctuating consumer confidence and the relentless competition. Now, this brings a question. What do you do when the calendar hands you a moment, this long weekend that we start today? A spike in foot traffic, a surge in spending. We are seeing all of that. What you have to do is pounce. I'll be in conversation with economist Sanele Sibiya, and we'll be cutting through the noise to ask important questions. Is Easter just a holiday, or is it a high-value, high-margin, limited-time opportunity that smart businesses should be maximizing right now? We'll talk about the Easter economy, from pop-up vendors as well as the roadside stalls to premium hospitality, domestic travel, and more footfall. Where is the money moving? Who's paying attention? And who is sleeping through a seasonal gold mine? It is indeed a gold mine. If you're running a business in 2025, every weekend matters, every uptick in demand, every shift in consumer behavior, and every moment on the calendar. Easter, not just a celebration, it is a test of business agility. Are you ready? It's a window of opportunity. We are going to get into that conversation and really drill into how really you can leverage this window of opportunity. Our economist, Sanele Sibiya, is going to really help us make sense of the economic advantages, or rather potential, that we see this long weekend. Starting and beginning today, let's make the most out of it. We also do want to make the most out of this show, but before we do that, we begin by looking at the business news that define the day.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Welcome back. This is our business news. Ligusasa-led for Youth Center for Employability has trained entrepreneurs on how to access funding for their businesses. They have also been encouraged to diversify in their business ideas, promote eco-friendly businesses in a bid to promote environmental stewardship. Center manager at Ligusasa-led for Penelope Matsebula says such trainings are critical in identifying ways to draft a winning business plan.
Labetelana kutoqoshisa noma kutothengisa kutokhuluma ukuthi ifunding bangayithola kanjani, what are the requirements from these three organizations, ukuthi bangabafunda kanjani and ngimaphi ema programs noma ngitiphi inhlobo temabhizinisi labatifundayo. So bumcuba balomhlangano namuhla nje ukuthi si invite bamlabasha ukuthi batolalela ukuthi naku sebanawo ama ideas, sebanayo imikhicito yabo, sebangayithola kanjani ifunding ukuthi ba expand lama business abo noma ukuthi bakhone kuthengisa imkhicito yabo abroad nekuthi ngiphi kahle le mikhicito labayifundako.
Investors at the training say it's critical that SMEs get exposed to such trainings as they get an opportunity to be enhanced and trained on various skills such as drafting business ideas and how to run their businesses.
Such workshops are very, very important for young people to attend because they get exposed into how to run a business and how they can start their businesses. And they tend to get more information on how they go about in starting their own businesses. We have tried to make a presentation to young people on how they can access the fund. I think that's very critical because they now have the information, so they can now act and start the application process.
Sometimes you find that a person would come and apply with just having the idea and not having a full proper guidance of being an entrepreneur. So that's in most cases that's where it hinders, and you find that some of them are not even registered. So they have to be registered and then have the business plan. With the business plan, they have to actually have the whole vision and the projections of whatever they want to do, and the business should also be viable and feasible. Most people, though, you find that they actually run their businesses just as not a legal entity. They just run it and do things there and there without registering. So in this workshop, it gave them the awareness of what actually to do.
The SMEs who are being trained say such trainings are helpful, particularly because they struggle in drafting winning business ideas and business plans.
I-workshop le njena ivula ingqondo watika abantu ukuthi okay makhuluma nge-funding kukhulunywa ngani and imcoka kanganani kule business, ithatha le business ibeke kusiphi isigaba, then ukhanze ukuthi masovule ingqondo soyakhona ke kuhlala phasi ukuthi ngiyaqualify yini vele ukuthi noma ngento enhlitiyo nje zathi ngifuna ukungena la or maybe ngihawukele kulomunye, so ubona ngale knowledge yakhona uyitfola lapha ngekhathi ukuthi okay i-package kanjena i-business. And also ama-challenges abakhona kuba ngileta imali. I believe lokuthi singemaswati siyazama lokugraspa ukuthi sitfolele lwati ngemali because inkumbi yethu sibene ukuthi ngifuna nje kuba nemali.
I've been struggling with registering my business because of I thought it comes with a lot of challenges, but I'm happy to say I've fully registered my business. So now I'm ready for financial support, and I feel like all the time we as a youth, we feel like we are not ready, but the time is now and the resources are available to us so that we can move forward and grow our businesses.
Mostly, I think last year, because I started last year it was weather. Like you needed more water last year because it was always sunny. So if you have something like cabbage, then you need more water, and that's a very big issue because I only use water, so you have to go and get the water wherever.
This marks our business news segment. We have Sanelus Bia on standby virtually to get into the lenses of how we really leverage the opportunities that come with this long weekend, this Easter weekend. They say that people are on the hunt. Business people should be in the hunt as well for this potential that lies ahead of them.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back to the program. Now, around the world, consumers are treading carefully and businesses are feeling the pressure Yet here we are in the middle of Easter weekend, and whether you're in retail, whether you're in hospitality, could be food and beverage, or it could be tourism or the informal economy. The big question is the same. Are you making this moment work for you, or are you watching potential revenue walk right past your storefront? It is a sluggish global climate right now in the world where demand is uncertain and margins are razor thin. And you do not want, you do not really wait, rather, for the perfect conditions. But what you want to do is seize pockets of opportunity. And holidays like this one, this Easter weekend, however brief, are one of those. Now, to help us decode the economics of Easter, if you like, the consumer behavior patterns, as well as the sectors best positioned to benefit, Sanele Sibia, our economist, you should know him by now. He joins us and is going to really help us drill into, the important questions and maybe help you make informed decisions as we tread carefully. Sanele, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a big weekend indeed, and I know a lot of business people are scratching their heads as to, how do I really leverage this opportunity with the current, economic condition that the globe is currently facing, and Eswatini, of course, no unique from that. Let's start with the basics. A public holiday like this one, it rolls around, but not so often. It's once a year. What actually happens in the economy? Are we excited? Because I'm hyping it up, and I hope I'm hyping it up for a good reason. What does the data show us in terms of spending movement and overall activity?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. So what we see basically around public holidays, Mr. Ngumalo, and more especially on a long weekend, and actually on a holiday truncated week to come, starting from tomorrow, you'd find that consumption tends to somewhat increase during such days, purely because people are spending more time indoors. So we would expect to see those retailing businesses actually seeing that bit of a surge, and also taking into consideration that schools have closed for the first term. So we should actually see that demand emanating from that. And also, the Easter period is one of those periods that in itself contains quite a lot of expenditures that that consumers have to make, more especially the church sector. Within this very weekend, there's a lot of money that gets spent. So what you need to do is make sure that you're standing in the right corner. People are moving to certain places for Easter conventions. There's going to be food that they have to eat. There's provisions that they will need. There's quite a lot of things. There's transportation that they will need to get to and from those events, Mr. Ngumalo. So we really need businesses to focus on those pilgrims, on how you get those who are milking that pilgrimage to those Easter conventions, so that you're able to make a bit of money, and also target the household sector as they are preparing and trying to cater for the holiday season, and also trying to cater for the long weekend. And we're also going to see that entertainment sector also doing the same, trying to gain in as people are lying idle, and they're going to need to spend, Mr. Ngulu. So this is going to be an expenditure-filled week, and we do expect that businesses would have adjusted themselves for this Easter boom.
Now, given the current climate, as it were, domestically and globally, are businesses better off playing it safe, or, is now the time to go bold with promotions? There's product pushes, there's activations that we normally see. I almost mentioned the name of the company that, normally does that vehemently during such windows of opportunity. Is that something that is prudent financially for, the fiscus of any business enterprise?
So right now, Mr. Ngomola, I would say go for it, because the environment right now is a bit uncertain. We've not seen subdued activity to that much. So right now there is still a window for producers to get what's in consumers' pockets, right? Because we do know there is that threat of a VAT bill, but if you're looking at the news and what's going to come, that might not likely come to fruition. So right now, I would say go for it. it while we are still watching the conditions. But in the very short term this weekend, I would say there really aren't much risks. And what you need to do is to appeal to the consumer so they can take up your commodity. So marketing is going to be critical. And also during recessions, if we were to end in a recession this year, marketing is the best way. I know I always say there's always opportunity in chaos. So you've got to look for those points in which you can make an entry and be able to appeal to the consumer. So right now, if you are looking at getting those conservative consumers, market what you think is a necessity so that people are able to come out and get that, the things that people cannot live without. If you're able to get them to look towards that direction and you do your smart marketing, packaging, and all of those things, I would say make an opportunity of this, not just this Easter weekend, but this very shortened week, and take advantage of the holidays. And we're also moving towards the King's birthday just in the following week. So you do need to target and leverage on those things, on those events, because people tend to conglomerate around a certain area. And once people are sitting around in a certain area, they tend to spend a lot. People are going to get hungry. People are going to want to buy, what you call your mementos, your gifts, the things that they're going to show that they were in Eswatini, and the things that we're going to show that they were there during the King's birthday. So it's going to be quite a beautiful week for both consumers and producers alike, I would like to think.
Okay, now some sectors, that they tend to benefit the most from, windows of opportunity. Now, holiday weekends like this one in a country like the Kingdom of Eswatini, or in the broader Southern African region, if you like, are there sectors that often miss out but shouldn't? And what word of advice do you have for those?
Like we're saying, what we would ideally expect during such time is for those retailers that are providing what people need, more especially in those conglomerated areas. And also, you do expect the entertainment industry to also want to benefit from such activities, from such events. And you would have expected to see quite a lot of entertainment stables, really bringing something out right now during this very long weekend. But I'm not sure, maybe that's yet about going to pick up. So we kind of need to make sure that we're able to leverage those. And another sector that usually struggles to get leeway during this period, Mr. Ngumalo, most likely due to lack of financing and lack of mobility, is that informal sector, which actually we find that it's spread across your commodities, your beverages, and your food stuff and all of those issues. So we do need to adequately capacitate our SMMEs to really be able to move, and to move with agility in terms of being able to what's the word I'm looking for, being able to infuse an agile supply response, because what we need right now is an agile supply response to make sure that you're able to cater for this boom, but then you're also going to be able to return to normalcy after this boom. So we need to be in a position to make sure that our supply, those that produce the food and all of those things, they are able to take advantage of this. And the handicraft sector as well, you are moving into the King's birthday weekend, it's National Flag Day, then there's going to be Workers' Day, and then there is also Easter right now, which is what we're looking into tomorrow. So what you need to do is to produce those commodities that are that would be required and used by those by the pilgrims, and also do something that is going to be utilized by those that are going for the King's birthday and the Workers' Day, that type of thing, Mr. Ngumalo.
You talk about the entertainment sector, and the big conversation around the world right now is pauses on tariffs. And the keyword there is going to be pause for this question that I'm setting up. We have an alcohol pause in Eswatini right now for this 4 days. And if I will make a hypothesis, I will say that if that entertainment is a car, we know that alcohol is its fuel. I wonder, if really they can leverage this 4 days with a pause on alcohol. But maybe that's a conversation for another day. I want to talk about consumer behavior. People, are they spending more out of habit and tradition during Easter? Or are they more cautious given some of the economic pressures?
We do know, Mr. Ngumalo, that the household sector is actually under duress and under extreme pressure these days. So that's why I would say focus on those commodities that people need. When people go for pilgrimage, focus on the food and not much on the other commodities, because we have to bear in mind that the household sector is under pressure and trying to really adjust. So the type of spending that we are seeing these days, Mr. Ngumalo, is spending on necessity and spending on habit, because then I'm just used to buying a certain commodity and I can still afford that one. So that's why I'm saying focus on need rather than luxury and want.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But if I'm an SME owner in food, retail, or even transport, what is the one key move that I should make to capitalize on this window? What really separates businesses that see gains from those that see none?
It's the ability and agility to respond to these supplier changes. It's basically the supply response, Mr. Ngumalo. So people who usually are able to take advantage of these periods is people who are going to have the financial muscle to pull through. You talk of the transport sector. You need to have the financial muscle and you need to have the right, incentives to get your staff to go out there and work. Also in SMMEs, you need to be able to have the right incentives to get your staff to go out there and work, while we know that it is a holiday and it's a long weekend across the globe, but we need people to be out there and working. So it's the ones with the right incentives and the ones with the right products that are going to make it work, Mr. Numa.
Right incentives, right products, but also the right advice from economists like you. I think they know what to do the weekend officially begins today. We have to go for a net break. Sonal is not going anywhere. We have to look at some of the numbers in the markets today and, of course, again, see how you can make better decisions.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
It's exactly 23 minutes after 2. This is our market analysis. We want to look at the numbers today. Mr. Sbia, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. I'm looking at the numbers here. We're seeing a lot of red, particularly in the U.S. markets, the European markets as well. Asia is enjoying a bit of green. I wonder if that is telling of something to be celebrated or not. But in the interest of time, if you will just go through everything and tell us what's happening.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo. So what we're seeing happening in the global markets is basically a reaction largely to the Fed's comments that came out yesterday, with Fed Chairperson Jay Powell there, really remaining a bit hawkish in terms of the expectations of the interest rates direction, and given the expectation around inflation. So what businesses expected him to say and come out and say yesterday was, we are going to start cutting interest rates, just to show up and make up for these uncertainties that we are seeing, and preemptively try to curtail the economy from going into what we'd call a recession. But none of that was said, and he continued to say the Fed Reserve Bank is actually going to continue being hawkish, and they're going to be steadfast on inflation. That's why we're seeing those market gains on the Dow Jones Industrial Average at 699, with Nasdaq losing 516, and the S&P 500 losing 120 points there, because we're looking into that. And then also there's the tariff war with NVIDIA. That's why we're seeing the Nasdaq, the tech heavy Nasdaq also losing a bit there, because of the ban on exports to China, and from those chip stocks there, those chips into China. So that's why we're seeing that type of movement within the American market, and this has also sent shockwaves across the pond into Europe. Again, when you look into the European markets, we see that the DAX has actually lost quite a bit of ground, because we do know that in as much as the European Union is about to go into negotiations with the US around what is going to be happening in terms of the tariffs, but we do know that those tariffs on automotives, the 25%, still remain. It's just that tariff on the parts that has been somehow waived, so that we can see movements of the automakers back into the US. And also when you look into consumer sentiments and business sentiment across the globe, we've seen those numbers come out, and they also are not telling of a very beautiful story, Mr. Nxumalo. And also another thing that we've got to understand with markets right now, Mr. Nxumalo, is they are bracing for the long weekend. So we do see those sell-offs as part of going into the weekend, and it's a long weekend, and we know that we are yet to see opening bells within the US, and we don't know what disruption will come just before a very long weekend. So that's why we're seeing a bit of a slowdown in the European markets. And then when you move into Asia, Asia remains on the green, because we've seen how China is trying to play the field with what they're doing in the Asia region and East Asia. We've seen them making deals in Vietnam, making deals in Singapore, and just making deals across the entire Asia region, parading themselves as this alternative to the US market that is a bit stable, parading themselves as a stable and friendly type of ally. So that's what we're seeing happening there, with Asia remaining relatively on the high, because we've seen President Xi really just walking out and doing a lot of public relations, and a lot of talking around to get the markets to come in and look into China, right? And we've also seen those news coming out where, where Beijing is now accusing the US of wanting to take over Hong Kong. So there's just quite a lot happening in Asia that, in a way, seems to point that the Chinese markets are the ones that are going to be relatively stable going forward, and also the fact that we're not going to go into that long weekend within the Asia region. And then when we come into South Africa, again, we're seeing a bit of slowdown in the markets as we're heading into the long weekend. But one thing that we can look into and be cleared off within the South African markets is we still remain on that 89,000 region, but we do know that the GNU story is also playing a lot into those numbers that we are seeing. So we should expect that number to stay relatively at that number, at that 89,000, until we get to the 1st of April, where we see the tabling of the bill and see if that VAT bill is going to go forward as planned. And the fact that gold continues to stay high continues to show up the South African economy. And then in terms of commodities, we're going into Easter weekend, and there's going to be a lot of movements, a lot of transportation, and we're seeing the US playing around with those tariffs, really just going back to their book and trying to see, more especially in terms of your rare earth minerals. We've seen how the US is now trying to play around and see what the impact will be. So we might likely see those go back and roll back in the next coming days. So Brent crude is also just reacting to that, taking a bit, edging up a bit to 66 today dollars per barrel, and gold just relatively steady there, but showing that there's still a lot of uncertainty because it still remains at that 3,200 mark. And then in terms of the currencies, we're seeing a lot of movements within the currencies, a lot of volatility. But what we're seeing right now with the geopolitical tensions and the trade war that is looming and blooming is the fact that the dollar is losing a bit of ground right now because of that uncertainty, and we're seeing the 10-year bond yield increasing there within the US. And also there's one interesting thing happening in the global markets, Mr. Ngumara, is the fact that investors are shying away from US debt because we're trying to see what the markets are going to look like and how this entire tariff strategy is going to play out. But the euro is relatively stable and relatively strong against the Lilangeni, and the Japanese yen has actually weakened a bit in terms of our relative strength to that currency, Mr. Newman.
Mr. Spear, always appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today and providing those important answers to our important questions. I will say that myself. Thank you to our viewers for staying with us on the program. We hope that everyone's going to enjoy and make the most of this Easter weekend. We'll be in church ourselves, myself, Lungalele, and the whole team. I believe that for a fact, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.